Hey guys, Robbie K here, coming at you again with another Robbie's Movie Reviews. And tonight we have the start of a 4-week, um, getting a little bit of a horror spiel. But before we get into it, let's go over the formulas. For those of you new, welcome for the first time. Thank you very much for choosing this. And of course, welcome to Robbie's Movie Reviews. Here's how it breaks down. We start essentially with, what's the word? We start with kind of what the trailer promises. Kind of what set my expectations. Then I give you a quick and dirty review, and then that's usually done around the 3 to 4 minute mark. And then we finally finish off with more of a detailed review to give you the ups and downs, the likes and dislikes, for those who want a little more insight into it. As always, any comments and criteria are always welcome in terms of how to make this better. And of course, this is always about stimulating discussion, and in hopes of trying to get more about the movies into it. Let's get started. Tonight, we look at The Prodigy, the latest horror movie about a freaky little kid to come to play. Will the child genius truly be a mastermind to contend with? Or is it just more carbon copy stuff in a sea of mediocre horror genre? Well, let's get started. The premise is essentially a young boy who is very gifted in the art of thinking and mathematics suddenly starts getting a creepy side when he gets an unnatural obsession with his mother. Potentially starting to get into the borderline serial mode. We don't know what's quite in store, but it's sure to be freaky as his dark, sinister side begins to loom amidst the dark hallways of his own home. What's in store? Well, I can't really tell you that, because essentially that'd be giving away the movie. So let's go ahead and get into the review. In all honesty, The Prodigy does deliver on its creepiness. While maybe not the scariest component of it, there is a constant shadow of chills that run through it. A combination of good music, fantastic lighting and cinematography, and some acting that can really send you for a whirl as it kind of shakes your bones. Essentially, the movie does very well in terms of trying to keep you on the edge of your seat, and release again in regards to being kind of scary and chilly, but at the same time doesn't quite go down the premise that the movie did. There's more of a different angle that they went through, and it just depends on the kind of person as to whether you like it or not. Nevertheless, there's enough other components to this movie to effectively just kind of be a little more milieu and run-of-the-mill. So nothing in terms of a really sensational story, and while a bit suspenseful, probably not the one that did the best in terms of storytelling and lots of and on the edge of your seat thrills like Escape Room did for me. It's okay. It sets up for potentially a number of storytelling possibilities, but at the same time, it still has a lot to work with in regards to really being that clandestine horror movie that will be remembered for ages to come. Again, enough creep factor to really get under your skin and keep a few of my friends on the edge of their seats with the loud noises, but still not the most put together movie of it. And I think most of that has to do with what you can get with it, what you can get in the more detailed review. But essentially, it comes down to not delivering quite on the premise that the movie is named after. But again, you'll hear more on that in the detail section. So until then, what's my scores? In terms of a genre, probably a horror, I'm saying a 6.5, really. Movie overall, we're looking at a 5.5, a 6. Not awful, but certainly not the blockbuster I think they were looking for. Alright, so if this is where, again, you leave me, thank you very much for giving me a shot, for taking a look at it, and of course, for liking, commenting. Please share, help me make this better, and more importantly, let your friends know so that way we can all kind of have a fun movie discussion. But if you're sticking around, let's get to the details. The Prodigy, we as always like to start on the likes, and as I want to bring out, the acting is actually really well done. While a limited cast compared to many other types of horror movies and slasher movies, The Prodigy's main eccentric cast does a fantastic job stepping into their roles. Concerned psychiatric specialist, a loving mother who is very doting, even a dad who's starting to understand some stuff. All of them are great supporting casts with a believable performance of family having to deal with a bizarre situation. The kid, though, really rocks it. Part creepy, part innocent. It's a lovely dynamic that works very well. And the kid just does a great job shining into that role and managing to deliver some of the chill components with it. As always, as you've heard, sometimes the chills are not just brought in the story and the acting by itself, but the other special effects you may be taking for granted. And that starts with the music. This movie has got some freaky music, the likes of which you haven't seen. Or I should say have not seen done in this manner as we've seen in a while. Again, many things sometimes decide to do the oblong and okay or very unique component that really doesn't do anything for me but make me wish that the horrible noises would stop. But this one captured the spirit and the looming weirdness and creeps that dwelled in this film. I, for one, was certainly thrilled with seeing a number of these things kind of shine, and that music just gets under your skin. The cinematography and the special effects of using the cloudiness, the grays, the use of shadow and light to make silhouettes that are still unknown, familiar, but yet unknown. Fantastic in those regards as well. So bravo to the lighting and the film crew, as well as the makeup for really kind of making those things pop out, with setting design really being a factor here along the lines of the dialogue. So, cool, not bad at all, and part of the atmosphere. As I said before, it's got some suspense, and that creep factor just continues to lean in, and that's a big because for a movie that looked creepy, you kind of need to deliver on that, and I think they did very well. And I'm going to have to give it props for its pace, because again, to get a movie done in about an hour and a half is a rare occasion these days, and they were able to do it and tell a relatively complete story with a few little twists to be thrown in there as well. So definitely you should definitely be looking forward to a few twists and turns that may spice up the movie compared to what you're thinking. So, bravo on that. And I will have to give it that they at least tried a unique concept. Nothing that we haven't necessarily seen before, but something in a twist manner and presentation that again was a welcome addition to the change. But again, originality is very difficult to hit in this day and age where the market is saturated. But where do the dislikes come in? Well, the first thing that comes into play is that, for me, I am not a big fan of animal cruelty. If that doesn't bother you, then this movie won't. If it only semi-bothers you, again, this isn't the worst I've seen. But for me, with a very low tolerance for animal cruelty, not my cup of tea. That's not really a spoiler or anything. I'm just letting you know that there is some components there, so fair warning. The predictability of it is that even right at the beginning, you figure out what's wrong. And sadly, that understanding and statement sort of plots out the rest of the movie. So the predictability is definitely there. And while there are a few small twists to come in, especially when you realize what's happening, it's only an okay component that I should say is worth rating, I guess, on the okay scale. It wasn't my favorite, but I give them kudos again for the originality. Just the concept didn't quite work out in terms of the trying to twist you too much, like the escape room was able to do. Now, nevertheless, in terms of the suspense, yeah, it's there, and again, it's mostly due to the creep factor, but nothing on the lines of a gigantic struggle that's super climactic that's going to leave you at the edge of your seat. Again, the Prodigy has some kind of PG-13 rated suspense components, but with the maliciousness of an R-rated movie. So, it's there, and it's got some type of atmosphere. I just don't think the two worlds were blended as well. In regards to some use of the other cast members, I was really hoping for a little more integration, a little bit of a wasted component in terms of some of the extra people that they were adding into it to start to help. And I gotta say that they didn't really give the kid quite as much. It was a very kind of glazed over components and actions that he was doing, which brings apart that thing I just mentioned that's not really that suspenseful. It's just kind of that creepy looming atmosphere. So, nothing that got me on the edge of the seat there. So then what is really kind of my biggest issue with it, it's definitely the misnomer of it. The Prodigy represents that this kid is super smart, and is going to use those smarts to create havoc. Yeah, that is only semi-true. The truth is that the Prodigy's The Prodigy's real main basis is not that. And while I can't really share it with you because that will give away the component of the movie, the fact that they were trying to go off of essentially that the smart kid was sinister is not even remotely the case. There's something else deeper into it. And that just didn't work for me. Originality, kudo points for that. In terms of, though, just how the movie was set up for an expectation, this was one of those times that the surprise that they went to kind of made the title of the movie completely irrelevant. There was not really any of those antics and components that were sort of promised in the trailer. And to be honest, some of the components that were built around it just were more odd and out of place than really right up my alley. Again, I was expecting more of sort of like The Omen, but only this time a Prodigy, not devil related. But hey, kudos to them for trying to be original. And again, I just had this and then lost it, so forgive me. I guess the other component is that there is a little bit of nudity in this that's not really, one, for me, and two, more odd and just, again, out of place. I can't really say much more than that, but it's not that the actor is disgusting in it and components like that. It's just, again, the concept of the nakedness. I guess there's some symbology to it, and anybody who is fantastic at mimicking, or not mimicking, but sort of dissecting and finding out what the guys were trying to do, yeah, I can totally see the way going down there. But in terms of a relevant point to it, not the case for me. Alright, well, we've yammered on enough, and we've got 3 more reviews coming, so let's throw it this way. Prodigy does its job of being creepy. It does its job of being sort of a placeholder in the horror film for potentially some other ones coming their way. It's got good acting. It's got a creepy dynamic atmosphere thanks to a lot of the special effects, and it does work in terms of how quickly in and out. But the concept was, while unique, just out of place. Didn't fit well for me. And to be honest, I think that the misnomer is just a little more disappointing than truly original in that component, especially given some of the unique ways that they were trying to do it. The ending, to be honest, is kind of 50-50 for me. And again, I can't go into too much detail there. So you're going to have to kind of go see the movie to figure out how it ends, or of course read Wikipedia if you don't want to wait. But overall, not the worst movie, but also I think room for improvement should they decide to do anything else like this in the near future. My scores again hold at about 6.5 in its category, while 5.5 would be its movie overall. Not necessarily the film I'd go this weekend to see in the theater. I think there's a few more promising ones with special effects and components to do it. But definitely check this out if you're a horror fan when it hits your home theater in whatever form you do. So until then, like I said, thank you very much. Please share, like, help me expand upon this, and I'll do my best to make it better. Have a good night, guys. Thanks as always, and we'll see you at the movies later.